Kozilek the Great Distortion versus Kadena Slinking Sorcerer. What can we do there? We've got a turn 3 Gilded Lotus if we want it. We'll go down a Crystal Vein though. I've seen faster hands, but are we going to be punished for getting rid of that? I think I am going to get rid of that actually. We can get more rocks into our opening hand, yep, and that's why I don't like to mulligan. Typically on Magic Online, if you mulligan, you get punished for it. So we'll just have to go again now. Okay, well we've got Mana Crypt at least, that makes it doable. Trinisphere is each spell that would cost less than 3 mana costs 3 to cast. I mean, we can get rid of that out of the hand. Let's just keep this. I think we have to get rid of 2. So that's Trinisphere. We can net mana with the Voltaic Key, so let's get rid of the Foundry Inspector. And like I said, we're on the draw at least, so we can go Mana Crypt, Command Beacon into Palladium Mere, and then we've still got 5 mana on turn 2. Sculpting Steel onto Mana Crypt isn't the worst. This hand has been made way better by Mana Crypt. Actually decided to pull this deck out again because I played against Kozilek in the last Salt video with Tuvasa, and someone asked me if I could build a deck around Kozilek, and I had to point that person to the playlist because I've already built this deck. So there are a few games of this knocking around on the channel if you were looking for a Kozilek the Great Distortion list. Our opponent's gone straight into Vivien, Champion of the Wilds. Luckily that's not one that can destroy our Palladium Mere. They do have their own fast mana in Sol Ring. They've only got 3 cards in hand as well though. So let's go in for... We can go Sculpting Steel onto the Mana Crypt. Actually we can go Sol Ring with that so we won't get bolted. Then go for Cold Steel Heart, and it doesn't matter what colour we make. And then we can just swing in at Vivien. I don't think this has a limit break, does it? No. Look at the top 3 cards. Yeah, it just limits the number of times it can minus down. So we are on 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll need 2 more mana, which we'll get off the Urza's Incubator. Probably see our opponent's commander here. And thanks to their Planeswalker, they can cast the morph creatures at instant speed, which means they can get one down for free on their turn, and one on our turn as well. Deciding to tick down Vivien. And how does that work? Look at the top 3 cards, exile 1 face down, the rest on the bottom. For as long as it remains exiled, you can look at it and play it if it's a creature card. I'm assuming you can get morph off with that. I'm not too sure about that though. I'll just put that over here so that we don't forget about it. They have played a morph creature. We'll see if we can dodge the bolt again. We cannot. Expedition map for our second land of the game might not be the worst. Let's get down the Voltaic Key. We can play that and untap the Sol Ring this turn. And that just means Voltaic Key came out for free pretty much. Then we'll go like that into Urza's Incubator, and we're obviously going to name Eldrazi here. So that means we can get our commander next turn. It might get countered, but I think it's a cast ability, isn't it? Whenever you cast it, you draw up to 7. So let's empty our hand here. And we might as well crack Expedition Map now because we have not made a land this turn. We'll go for Eye of Ugin. Now play that out. That will make our Eldrazi cost less as well. And we can pay 7 and tap to search for a colourless creature and put it into our hand. Just going to leave the Palladium Mere back here. And we're going to hope that our opponent doesn't wipe the board of artifacts because that would be us done. And they've got the mana for a Bane of Progress here. I don't know how likely we are to see that in a Kadena list. Both creatures swinging in at us. I don't see what harm can be done here, so we'll definitely not block with Palladium Mere. Another morph creature for our opponent. They are still at 3 cards in hand. Don't forget they draw a card every time they play a morph creature. And then flipping this over straight away, so that is destroy an artifact or enchantment, I think. We're still on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This makes it cost 2 less, so it's kind of like a mana rock. So we can still go for our commander as the board stands now. Talisman of Curiosity for our opponent. They are not quite keeping up with us on mana, but they've got quite a lot. Get their second morph creature down of the turn. So I would think they would have a morph creature to play on our turn. Otherwise you would just wait to do that on this turn instead of playing it out on their own turn there. I think they only draw off the first. Whenever a face down enters under your control, draw a card. Oh no, it's whenever one enters, so scratch that, but doesn't matter anyway. Our opponent decides to scoop it up. Let's at least see what we would have drawn into. Yeah, I think the writing was going to be on the wall for our opponent there. Keeping Joyra's Familiar in hand. Actually, we could have played a land first, couldn't we? So that would have been an extra card draw. And we would have drawn into Lion's Eye Diamond. We have Ugin and Ulamog and Emrakul, and yeah, we were definitely going to take over the game there, I think. But I will keep going and try and get a game in which we actually show us winning as opposed to our opponent expecting us to win. Kozilek the Great Distortion versus Korvold Fakehurst King. That's pretty slow by this deck's standard, but I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and hope that we can, just survive until turn 4 or 5. We're on the play, so that helps us along a little bit. No fast mana from our opponent, which is always useful. Unfortunately for us, we don't get into a turn 1 mana rock either, so we'll just have to pass again. And still just continuing to get out some lands and pass the turn, so let's go for the Warm Power Stone. That'll get us some decent acceleration for next turn. So we're due for going into Thran Dynamo next turn. Then we've got 4 mana. So we can go Basalt Monolith into Wayfarer's Bauble, I think. Our opponent getting into Vivien, Champion of the Wilds. We've just seen that against the Kadena player. And they decide to plus that up. Mindslaver is 3, 4, 5, and we don't have a land to play. We couldn't play and crack it anyway, so we just concentrate on our initial plan of going for Thran Dynamo. And we'll go Wayfarer's Bauble and Basalt Monolith, and that takes us into our commander next turn. Stonecoil Serpent, where X is 3 for our opponent. Protection from multicoloured, reach and trample. Certainly no multicoloured in this deck. Then I think there was another plus there, wasn't it? Until your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. Okay, Duplicant is not something I'm really looking to cast here. If we go Thran Dynamo into Wayfarer's Bauble, we'll have 1 floating. We go for maybe Ancient Tomb. That'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, we should go for a land here because we keep missing them. Oh, I keep thinking this is Expedition Map actually, so can we still get our commander out? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. We can't, unfortunately, due to my mistake. So instead, let's go for the Geode Golem. And we'll see if our opponent wants to leave this thing back. to block. Although actually they'll need more toughness to block with, won't they, because this has trample. Whenever this thing deals combat damage to a player, we can cast our commander from the command zone without paying the mana cost. Don't know if I've ever gotten my commander out with Geode Golem, so maybe my accident is going to show us an interesting line of play. Instead of just straight up hard casting Kozilek. Okay, Obnixilis comes down. Destroy a target creature. I mean, they have to target Geode Golem with that, really, don't they? Although Kozilek is coming out next turn either way. And then we draw some cards there. How did that work? Its controller draws 2 cards. Okay, so they've just given us 2 cards for the Obnixilis. I didn't realise how bad that was, actually. Destroy a creature, its controller draws 2 cards. I wouldn't even run that in Nekusar, I don't think. Still not getting into lands, though. We drew a card, so Obnixilis will deal some more damage to us. Let's actually go for Ulamog here instead of our commander, because we're actually not going to draw any cards. And we want rid of those planeswalkers anyway. So let's get rid of both of those. And Ulamog comes down into play. Then we will get the Plague Mirror out, because the Basalt Monolith is not going to untap next turn now. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So we can still go for Kozilek next turn if we want to. But I think we're just going to concentrate on hammering away at our opponent with Ulamog. Going for Murder onto our Mana Dork. Oh, that is Swift End, isn't it? Not Murder. They lose 2 life and destroy a creature. I'm sure they would have pointed that at Ulamog, but it is indestructible. Well, we'll lead things off. In fact, we could go for... we've got 5, 6, and then we can't go for Mindslaver because our opponent got rid of our Dork, so let's go instead for the Duplicant. And this way we can give our opponent a direct hit with Ulamog. And then Duplicant goes straight into the bin because the Stonecoil Serpent has 0 power and toughness. It had its toughness sheerly from the plus counters. Now let's do some milling for our opponent. We get rid of a whole bunch of cards off the top of our opponent's library. Just put that there for any of you that are interested in what our opponent's deck looks like. Now, God Eternal Ronas from our opponent. And that is a Spine of Issar. Are these indestructible? No, these are the ones where you put it into the owner's library, 3rd from the top when it dies. So we'll just go Spine of Issar here, I think, to get the God Eternal Ronas out of the way. Showing how well you can remove permanents with a colourless deck here. And then we'll see if that goes into the library or not. It does not, so our opponent's got 2 more hits with Ulamog now, including this hit. And we'll exile some more of the library. Hitting our opponent for 10, let's go Thought Vessel into Coalition Relic. And that should mean that we can get our commander down next turn if needs be, but something tells me we're not going to need to get down our commander. Put a charge counter on Coalition Relic before I forget. And just deciding to pass the turn, I assume our opponent's being a good sport here. We'll add white with that and just cast the Sphere of Suns to make use of that mana, just in case our opponent has something here. And then we'll go in with our Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Exile a bunch more cards. Our opponent only has 25 cards left in the library. And they decide to be a great sport and just take it. So a big thank you to my opponent for playing that out. It's difficult sometimes to get out a full game when you're running Kozilek or Eldrazi in general, because they are obnoxious to play against. Just scroll down here for anyone who wants to look at our opponent's library. So yeah, got to show off a little bit more of what the deck can do than I usually do, thanks to my blunder with the Wayfarer's Bauble. I just had it in my head that that was an expedition map for some reason, and that we were going to search for a land and then play it, which is why I mentioned going for Ancient Tomb, I think. But we actually had to go for a basic and put it into play tapped, which is a huge difference. Not to worry, we managed to get a victory down anyway, so I hope you all enjoyed this revisit to Kozilek the Great Distortion. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.